Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and really demystify what happens inside an insurance company. We're going to follow the entire journey of a single policy from just an idea all the way to a promise being fulfilled. So let's dive right in.
Right? It's a button we've all seen, probably clicked a few times, but have you ever stopped to think about the massive machine that roars to life on the other side of that click? Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to follow that click and see exactly where it leads, step by step.
It's best to think of an insurance company not as some big single building, but more like a really complex machine. It's got all these interconnected parts, and every single one has a very specific job to do. So let's meet the key players who are going to guide our policy on its journey.
First up, you've got underwriting. I like to call them the gatekeepers. They're the ones who carefully decide which risks the company should take on. Then there's the claims department, the promise keepers. They're the ones who step up when that promise actually needs to be fulfilled. And, of course, guiding us through it all is customer service, the essential link between you and the company.
Okay, so every single policy starts with a little spark of interest. You realize you need some kind of protection. This is the very beginning of the whole life cycle, where a potential customer starts the process of becoming a real policyholder.
So you've put in that inquiry. What happens now? Well, the company starts gathering information about you and whatever it is you want to insure. Based on that info, they do an initial risk assessment, kind of like a first look, to calculate a price, and then they issue a quote. This is your first glimpse at the potential cost and coverage.
Okay, so you've looked at the quote, the numbers make sense, and you're ready to make it official. This is the moment you move from just a casual inquiry to a formal application, and it's where our policy meets its first major checkpoint.
And this brings us right back to underwriting. Look, their job is absolutely critical. Why? Because they're basically protecting the financial health of the entire company. By carefully picking and choosing risks, they make sure there's enough money in the pot to pay out all the future claims, and that could include yours.
So, after you submit your formal application, the underwriters do a much deeper dive into the risk. They might check driving records, property reports, all sorts of things. Based on this really detailed assessment, they make a decision. They can accept, reject, or maybe even modify the offer. If you're accepted, congratulations. A legally binding policy is issued and you're officially covered.
So, the policy is official. Now what? Well, this starts the main phase of its life, what's called the policy period. This is the time when your coverage is active and hopefully just giving you some peace of mind.
During this period, which is usually about a year, you are covered against all the specific things laid out in your policy. And if you have questions or you need to make a change, say you get a new car, that's where the customer service team, our guides, steps in to help you out.
Now, what's really fascinating is the engine room that's powering everything behind the scenes. You've got the actuaries, they're basically data wizards who use stats to predict the future and set fair prices. You have the finance team, managing all the company's money and investments to make sure claim money is always there. And of course, you've got IT, legal, and marketing. Every single one of these teams is essential to making your policy more than just a piece of paper.
As you get close to the end of your policy period, the company will typically send you a renewal offer. This is basically a chance for both of you and the insurer, to decide if you want to continue the relationship for another term.
And now we arrive at the very reason insurance even exists. Something happens. A car accident, a burst pipe, a storm. This is the moment of truth. This is where the promise that was made on paper gets put to the test in the real world.
When you boil it all down, this is the moment that truly defines an insurance company. Just like it says here, the claims process is the most critical touchpoint. An insurer's reputation is literally built or broken right here, where an abstract promise becomes a tangible, real-world action.
So enter the claims department, our promise keepers. Their whole goal is to investigate what happened, figure out if it's covered by the policy, and then provide a fair and timely settlement for every single valid claim.
So, how does it all start? Well, after the event, you notify the insurer as soon as you can. They'll assign a claims adjuster to your case, and that person then starts gathering information, talking to people, and collecting evidence to understand exactly what happened.
The whole investigation really just boils down to answering two fundamental questions. First, coverage assessment. Does the policy actually cover this specific event? They'll read the fine print. And second, loss adjustment. Okay, if it is covered, what's the exact financial value of that loss?
Once those big questions are answered and everyone agrees coverage is there, you and the insurer agree on a settlement amount. Then the payment is issued, whether that's for repairs, a replacement, or just a check, and the claim is officially closed. The promise has been fulfilled.
All right, let's zoom out and look at the entire machine we've just explored. From that very first click for a quote all the way to the final closing of a claim, we've seen how each and every part has a vital role to play. So here's the crucial takeaway. The underwriters build a strong foundation by carefully selecting risks. Customer service maintains the whole structure. And the claims department? They prove the strength of that structure when you need it most. It's an entire system designed to provide you with a financial safety net.
And that brings us to the end of our policies journey. Now that you've seen how all these pieces fit together, from the pricing to the day-to-day service to that absolute moment of truth in a claim, what part of this complex machine really matters most to you when you choose who to trust with your protection? Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us.